Diego Pavia is considered to be among the nation's best quarterbacks heading into 2025. I agree.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So this episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Now, on today's episode, I'm going to get you into the weekend with a look at the matchup with the Kentucky Wildcats at Memorial Gym. Also, who are the X factors in that game? And an X factor on the football field is Diego Pavia. He's being mentioned with potential to be among the top quarterbacks in the country for next season. He has the chance to be elite, and I think that he absolutely can. So before we get into any of that, I want to mention my condolences and my heart goes out to everyone in the Antioch high school community. Tragic shooting over there, and that's why I'm wearing the blue and white. So I am, I'm just, it's sad, it's heartbreaking, and as a fellow Metro teacher, it is not a great situation, and it's a very scary situation. So, I'm thinking about them, and this is why I'm in solidarity with the Antioch Bears. Now let's get into it, though. Okay, so Brad Crawford, he came out with this article, and I think it's a really good article. I think it's it's one of those that you, as a Vandy person, as a Vandy fan, as somebody who is hoping that Vandy can take that next step, you want your players to be named at this point amongst the elite in the country. So Brad Crawford, CBS Sports, he wrote an article about projecting who the top 10 quarterbacks for this season is going to be. Now, this list, I think, has some notables that are left out. Nico Amialava, I think I said that right. DJ Lagway, Darian Mensah, John Mateer, all those guys, Julian Sain. I think all those guys are going to be elite. Nico's the one that I think has gotten enough under his belt to really prove something. DJ Lagway has to prove that he's going to stay healthy for the remainder of the season. So that's one of those things where you look at and you say, okay, well, he's a super talented guy, and if he's healthy the whole season, Florida, sky's the limit for the Gators. I think they're going to be a tremendous team. John Mateer, we don't know what he's going to do at Oklahoma, but you have to assume that they're going to be a lot more explosive than they were a year ago. So those are the quarterbacks that I thought would be in this list, but they were just on the outside looking in, I think, for various reasons. But Jackson Arnold, number 10, Diego Pavia comes in at number 9. So he's projected to throw for 2,500 yards, 21 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and he's also projected to rush for 688 yards rushing, scoring 7 times on the ground. Now, the projections have him improving his passing game, but at the sacrifice of his rushing ability. Now, I think it's going to be kind of somewhere in the middle. I think, the passing numbers are going to go up a little bit. I think he's going to have more completions. Vandy's not an offense that's going to chew up a ton of yards in the passing game, so I don't think he's ever going to have gaudy passing numbers. But I think he's going to be super efficient. I think he's going to have a higher completion percentage, and I think he's going to have much more of an impact on the game through the passing game. And I think that's going to help the rushing attack all across the board, especially his numbers. I think he has a chance to go 1,000 yards rushing this year. I think he has that chance because if he can improve even just by 100 or 200 yards in the passing game, maybe even just 100 yards, or even if he just puts up the similar yardage, and if he just completes more passes, like if he completes 191 passes, but it's for like 2,100 yards and he has 1,000 yards rushing, his impact will be felt. And teams are going to have a hard time with that because quarterback plus one run game is tough to defend anyway. And no matter how you slice it and dice it, the fact he was able to get 800 yards rushing on the season when everyone in the entire stadium knew where that ball was going, he could still make it happen. Georgia Tech knew exactly who was going to tote the mail. They knew exactly who was going to tote the mail, and they couldn't stop it. He's that good. And he has a chance to make an impact on the game to that degree. Now, is he an NFL quarterback? I don't know that he has the power or the quick release and quick accuracy to be a NFL quarterback because even as an elite runner, like Lamar Jackson is an elite runner. And coming out of college, they were worried about the same thing with his throwing, his arm strength and his accuracy and his ability to make reads as a quarterback. I would say looking back at it now, Lamar Jackson's functioned just fine, if not at an elite level. So, but he has the arm strength, he has the accuracy, and he has the developmental tools that I think can help him at the next level. Now, will Diego Pavia end up on an NFL roster? I don't know. He could be a practice squad guy, third stringer, probably is his ceiling, but that's okay. We're not talking about the NFL. We're talking about Vandy football. And I think that for them to sustain the program like I've been talking about and to be a top 40 program year in and year out and rise up those ranks and become a top 25 program to a top 15, top 10, on up the ladder. I think the more involved you get with NIL, you have a guy like Diego Pavia who's electric. You start to attract those people around him that are just as electric. And next thing you know, you got a team full of that, and you have an exciting team, people that want to come watch it, not just opposing fans that are visiting Nashville on vacation. They're like, hey, Nashville's a great vacation destination. Hey, Alabama happens to be playing that weekend. Oh, we're going to go to the game, and it's going to be all crimson. That's, I think Diego Pavia has a chance to put a lot of that to rest with his play. I think he has a chance to capture First Bank Stadium for Vanderbilt. It's going to be completed, so that's going to help. But I think he has a chance to capture that and bring some magic back to that stadium. And I think there's going to be guys behind him that learn. I really like Jack Elliott. And at some point during this offseason, we're going to take a look. All of us, all 600 of us, are going to take a look at what the quarterback position looks like behind Diego Pavia, because this is it for him. This is his last dance. And so got to prepare for the future whenever the future starts. And that could be 2 games into the season, hopefully not, or that could be in 2026. But we've got to figure out who that backup quarterback is going to be, what's going to happen there. But in the meantime, I think Pavia is going to be elite. I think there's something to this. I think there is, you look at what he was able to do in year one, where a lot of guys really didn't know the scheme. He wasn't getting a ton of help from the wide receiving core. The running game got shut down as a whole for the most part later in the season. Like, they had a harder time creating run lanes. So it was like a lot of tough sledding late in the season. And he still produced, and this team still had juice. And even in losses to LSU and Tennessee, they had juice, but Tennessee had the depth and they took over. LSU had the depth, they took over. South Carolina had better depth, they took over. Vanderbilt is close. If Vanderbilt can close that gap, and you have a guy like Diego Pavia on your roster, the impact that you have in the transfer portal, and the spring portal window is going to come up here pretty soon, and that's going to be a pivotal one, because can you get an electric running back? Can you get one more big offensive lineman? Can you recruit? I think you're starting to see it with the high school level with some of the recruits that we're getting with Pavia, the impact that Pavia has on this program. He's making this program fun. He's making this an exciting program and a desirable program. It's not just little old Vandy playing in this dump of a stadium, right? All that's improving. The campus is improving. The basketball team is starting to become good. And so there's stuff to do. Nashville's a lively city. There is a lot of good things about going to Vanderbilt. And I think for the fans' sake, there's going to be a lot of stuff to want to support, because, hey, everyone wants that local team, right? I'm a transplant, sort of. I've been here 16 years now, so I can almost, you guys be the judge of that. I can almost say that I'm from here now. I'm a native. I think they judge it pre-flood. Like, I was pre-flood. And if you're not in Nashville and you don't know what that means, but there was a big flood in 2010. And if you came after the flood, you're considered kind of an outsider. If you moved in before the flood and you stayed, does that make me a local now? Am I a Nashvilleian? Am I a true Nashvilleian now? I've spent almost as much time in Nashville as I have in Georgia. I'm getting really close to those numbers being equal now. So I consider myself a Tennessean. I consider myself a Nashvilleian. I hope you guys do too. I hope you guys embrace me. I'm a Georgia guy by birth, Nashvilleian by now. So, but I think it gives a sense of pride. I think Diego Pavia putting up these numbers gives some credibility to this coaching staff and the plan that they set forth a year ago, this time last year. Hey, we have this plan. We have this mission. We're going to build and build and build and build. And they did, and they still are. And that's the exciting part about it. So Diego Pavia is that dude, right? He is that dude. And he is a top 10 quarterback. That was yesterday's show, by the way. So, but he has all the tools. He has everything he needs to succeed. The passing game, they've got some weapons, still unknown weapons, but they've got some weapons. They got some guys that can play. They got some guys that have some ability. It's phenomenal. So I know those of you, if you tune in late, this is not a Kentucky shirt. I know Vandy plays Kentucky at Memorial, but the timing of it. But we're going to talk about that game and what Vandy needs to do in order to win that game. We're going to switch gears to basketball, and we're going to do that next. Game time. Attending NFL playoff games is an experience like no other, especially if you went to the game in Philly where it snowed like crazy. The energy and excitement and the connection with other fans are unmatched. I remember the thrill of seeing my favorite team clinch a playoff win live. It's a memory that I'll never forget, although that was many, many years ago because I'm a Falcons fan. That's this a really long time ago, but I did see it and it was fun. This year, Game Time makes it even easier to create those unforgettable moments with their new feature called Gametime Picks. It filters out all the fluff and shows you only the best deals on great seats so you can focus on what matters, being there. Now, I've used Gametime Picks to grab tickets for an upcoming playoff game, and it couldn't have been easier. I found a super deal that gave me an incredible value for amazing seats, and I could even preview the view from my spot before buying. That's my favorite feature. And all-in pricing is a game time game changer, and no surprise fees at checkout. And that's what that means. So knowing my tickets are backed by the Game Time guarantee gives me complete peace of mind. So I love the curated deals, the seat views, all that stuff. Man, it's incredible. So you need to take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. Thank you for getting me above 600 subscriptions. Thank you to all of you and all of you everydayers who make it happen. This show would be nothing without y'all, so I appreciate it dearly. Okay, but Vandy, well, before that, if you need another listen, Locked On SEC is the place to go. Chris Gordy does a phenomenal job covering the entire conference. But if you want some more specific ones, Locked On Ole Miss with Stephen Willis is a really good one. Locked On Bulldogs with Clint Shamblin is really good. Locked On, this pains me to say it, but Locked On Gators, not because of the host, but because of it's the Gators. But Brandon Olson does a phenomenal job with the Locked On Gators show if you're into that kind of thing. So if my principal's listening, Locked On Gators is the way to go. All right. So Vandy welcomes Kentucky to Memorial Gym on Saturday. Now, this is an interesting game, okay? Because this is one of those games where simultaneously it is a really tough game to win and a winnable game at the same time, right? And you're probably thinking that makes no sense. And really, if you think about it, it doesn't. But like this game is like you need a miracle, but like the way Kentucky plays is possible because if Vandy plays to the tip top of what they can do, it's the same. They're the same team, except Kentucky's just a little bit deeper and they have some better scores. Vandy has a brand new roster that's still, at this point, still trying to get to know each other, which, that happens, right? So here's what I think. Here's my keys, okay? Now, Jalen Carey's going to be an X factor. Jason Edwards is a star. We'll talk about that. All right, but here's what I'm thinking, right? You got to press the ball on both ends of the court, okay? And against Kentucky, you're going to have to get your shots up and you're going to have to hit them, okay? You're going to have to press the ball and create turnovers. I think for Kentucky, if you can put pressure on them to score, maybe they fold, maybe they don't. You kind of have to find out on that. But press the ball on both ends of the floor, which Vandy does. Vandy does well with that anyway. They get to the rim among the best, right? They can get to the rim, they can create shots, and they can create opportunities, scoring opportunities. So if you press the ball, that's something that I think could disrupt Kentucky's rhythm, and you can really go. Now, when you do that, when you create these opportunities, you can't afford a poor shooting night. You have to make your shots. And I know that sounds arbitrary, right? That sounds like no blank moment right there, right? Oh yeah, the team that scores the most points will win this game, right? It's like that kind of thing. But you know what I mean. If you can't have a poor shooting night, especially from 3-pointers. Now, I'd like to see the 3-point attempts scaled down just a little bit and not take as many. But at the same time, if you get good looks, take them, and you got to hit them. All right, but they're not turning the ball over, so you have to. That's why you have to press them to try to force that. They're third in the country at offensive efficiency and points scored per game, so they can pour it in. But if you can disrupt that rhythm, you can disrupt that ability. Tennessee was the same way. Tennessee didn't turn the ball over a lot and could put points on the board. But what happened is Vandy got into a situation to where they disrupted their rhythm and their flow, and Tennessee couldn't quite score. They couldn't get in a rhythm. And Memorial Gym, the atmosphere throws you off enough with the way the benches are set up, with how far the fans are back from the court and all that stuff. Like, you have that, but also, Vandy's a tough team at home. They're a tough team regardless. They played Alabama tough. They were just outclassed, and Alabama just poured it on. But like I said, Tennessee and Vandy are built very similarly in styles of play, which bodes well. Defensively, Kentucky is not. They're not good defensively. They rank 300th in the country in points allowed per game, 269th in defensive rebounding, and 228th in opponent assist to turnover ratio. So they're not creating turnovers either. So they're not giving the ball away, and they're not taking it away either. So on the offensive end for Vandy, it's, hey, let's get to the basket. Let's force them into foul trouble. Let's get these shots down. Let's put pressure on them. Let's make them feel the anxiety of having to win. Okay. And that's something there. Defense. Create scoring chances with turnovers. That goes back to pressing the ball. If you press the ball, you can try to get Kentucky to cough it up. Vandy's done a tremendous job of all season long, no matter what the game is they can create turnovers and they can score off those turnovers. They're good at that. They just haven't been consistent enough shooting to be able to hang with the big boys just yet. But they're right there on the bubble of tournament teams, but they're going to have to get an upset or two. They're going to have to win their gimme games, but they're going to have to create these chances with turnovers. And then they're just going to have to kind of just, with reps, they're going to have to just continue to shoot their way out of trouble. So some of these games they're not quite winning because low shooting percentage, especially from 3-point land. They've gotten better at that. They've shot more. It seems like they put an emphasis on hitting those shots and creating good shots. When they move the ball well, they can create really good looks at the basket. And when they create really good looks at the basket, your percentage can go up. So I think, and a lot of basketball teams, when I watch basketball, this is something I notice. And this is what drives me crazy about the sport in general. I'm not a basketball fan whatsoever, just the sport in general. So, if a basketball team, when I watch basketball, this is something I notice. And this is what drives me crazy about the sport in general. I'm not a basketball fan whatsoever, just the sport in general. So, if a basketball team, when I watch basketball, this is something I notice. And this is what drives me crazy about the sport in general. I'm not a basketball fan whatsoever, just the sport in general. So, it doesn't matter. I have a hard time watching basketball. I'll be very upfront and frank about that. I have a hard time watching basketball. It's because of poor shooting, because of poor shot selection. These guys just want to jack up threes, regardless. Like, they're not moving the ball. They're not trying to create. They're not trying to run any sort of plays or any sort of continuity or any sort of movement to get the ball through the hoop. They catch and they shoot no matter where they are. And it's usually Brick City. And that drives me crazy when a team gets impatient, because basketball players are impatient. They want to score. They want to get their points. They want to, they want to pump up the crowd. They want to get on Sports Center. Like, that's what drives me crazy about basketball, is just what basketball used to be versus what it is now. And I know I sound like an old man, get off my lawn, but I do have a little bit of gray hair coming in right here. I know I sound like an old man. I admit it, but it's just, there's just not as much team basketball right now. There's just not as much ball movement. There's just not as much shot creation. I think when Vandy is playing like that, they're fun to watch. They're exciting, and they give themselves a really good chance at winning. And when they don't do that, and when they start playing impatiently, and they're just like, okay, boop, throw up three, boop, throw up a three, boop, throw up a three. I just got to throw this up there because I feel like I have to shoot this, right? And instead of making that one extra pass, that's going to create a guaranteed scoring opportunity. I'm going to launch a three from the wing, and it's going to brick. And I'm going to do that 5 times, and they're going to go, and the other team's going to go on a 15-0 run. That's kind of what happens. That's what's frustrating about watching the sport of basketball. Now, I will say this too. It's trending back the other way. I think the Steph Curry days of like guys wanting to just do nothing but launch threes, I think that's starting to fade now, that might get me back. Okay. It might get me back in the sport of basketball. Okay. So I'm excited about that. But anyway, we'll talk more about, I'll say this as well. My dislike for basketball, or my non-preference for basketball, I don't want that to discount what I know about the sport, because I have played it. I have studied it. I used to be a basketball fan. I just don't like the current style. So it's hard for me to watch. I do watch it. I don't watch it a ton. I'm not a basketball junkie like I am for football, but I do watch enough. I do know what things, how things can be successful, and the tried and true methods and things like that. So I don't want it to get misconstrued on that front. So, but we'll talk about, X factors. Jason Edwards is going to be a star, by the way. We'll talk about that next. Hey, speaking of stars, the joint chiropractic can help you be a star. How's that? Because if you're feeling good, you're going to perform good no matter what you're doing. You're going to perform well at work. You're going to perform well at your pickup games, or whatever it is you're doing. You're going to excel at, because you're going to be feeling good after getting your joints cracked by the fine folks at the Joint Chiropractic. I go to the one in Bellevue, and that one has been amazing. They've created a customized plan for me to get me in the right plan, to make sure that all my trouble spots are good. Like my neck, I can't turn my head very far. That's probably because a lot of wear and tear playing football, but they'll get you right. And it's a great place to go. You should go. Like I said, over 900 locations nationwide. So I guarantee you there's one near you. They have really good plans, and they have really good payment plans, membership plans, and they create a customized plan for you for your treatment. So they have good membership plans, and they have customized treatment plans, and that's going to benefit you in the long run. It's going to lead to greater health. I've got to get back. I haven't been in a while. Been busy, been kind of sick, got exposed to COVID for a little while. So I had to limit places that I went. So anyway, here's what it is. The Joint Chiropractic, though, 900 locations, visit one soon. All right, welcome back. Wrapping up the show here. Locked On Vandy, thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. This basketball team's getting better, guys. At Locked On Vandy on all social media platforms if you want to follow. Like and subscribe, all this stuff. If you like what you hear, tell a friend. Hit that subscribe button as well. So, but this Vandy team is honestly, it's making me like the sport a lot better now. I'll be honest. I said just a few moments ago that I'm kind of down on the sport of basketball. I was really down on it a few years ago. I'm starting to kind of go back on the upswing a little bit, where I do enjoy it kind of as a background sport now. I've kind of gotten back into. I used to not watch that at all until March Madness. Like when I was in college, I was a college football fan and a college basketball fan. I'd watch it and I would feel like I was educated on what was happening and how to make my picks in March Madness. And I felt like I was doing good. I've done better in March Madness without having watched a single game than I ever did as like somebody who watched a lot of basketball. And that's really kind of odd to say, but the style of play, I think, was more, I guess I just prefer a more scoring style instead of just launching threes, which is what it's become. But that's why Vandy's a breath of fresh air, because they're, occasionally they do get into this frame where they want to just jack up shots. But for the most part, they're the type of team that I enjoy watching play. They're going to press you. They're going to create turnovers, and they're going to run the floor, and they're going to get to the rim. And that's what I like. That's the style of basketball that I like. I want teams to get to the rim. I want them to move the ball, create open looks, and really just pour it on. That's where the momentum happens, not by launching threes and hope that you make it, right? So that's kind of where I'm at on that. But Jason Edwards, going to be an absolute star. He is a star. He's going to be an even bigger star in this league. He's been phenomenal for Vandy. He's been this team's unequivocal leader. He sat out for a couple of games. He was banged up, but he's back, and he's a leader of this team. Him and AJ Hoggard, I think, are the two guys that everything goes through them, right? And it's fun to watch. Like when you can tell when they take command of a game, they're in tune. Right. And this team is in tune. Like these two guys are kind of the glue that holds this team together. And they're kind of the catalyst that get this team rolling. And I really like these two guys as basketball players, as leaders, and as guys who can create opportunities. Now, here's an X factor. Here's a guy that I think is key, because you need that third guy. You need someone at the forward position, which technically they're all point guards, but you need somebody kind of as a forward position. And Jalen Carey is that guy. He's kind of he's an X factor, because he can make some exciting plays. He can kind of be a little bit of a presence inside. Devin McLaughlin the same way. Devin McLaughlin is kind of that undersized, like big guy he's got the big man mentality. He's just not quite as big, not quite as tall. Jalen Carey's kind of got that slashing forward type mentality. He's a tough guy. He's going to rebound. He's going to play around the rim, and he's going to create opportunities, and he's going to take advantage of second look opportunities. So he's an X factor, because if you can kind of get him involved, and if you can kind of get him around the rim, if you can get him rebounding, Vandy's been successful when that's happened. Like Jalen Carey is a key piece to this. Even though Edwards is the star, AJ Hoggard is a star. Jalen Carey is that kind of elevated role player. There's role players. There's like elevated role players where they're good. They get opportunities to create, but they're not quite on that star level to where you just let them roll. And then there's the superstars, which, Edwards and Hoggard are that, and Edwards is the number one dog. Hoggard is number two. All right. And so I'm really excited to watch these guys play. I'm really excited to see kind of what happens on Saturday with this matchup, because you get a team that can score, but they give up a lot. And and they're going up against a team that is very streaky, but runs the floor well, can turn you over, plays really good on the defensive end of the floor. So I think something's got to give. And this could be either, I think this game's going to go one of two ways. If Kentucky wins, it's a blowout. If Vandy wins, it's a close game. I don't think there's any other scenarios. Like I don't think Kentucky's going to win a close game. I think if Kentucky is in a tight game, it means they're not playing their style of basketball, and it means Vandy's controlled the tempo, and Vandy's going to finish them off. If Kentucky wants to win this game, they've got to pour it on early, put the pressure on Vandy, and Vandy will. Vandy has shown that they will be impatient and they will try to shoot their way out, and they just can't do that. They get away from their identity a little bit. So, but that being said, one last time, prayers out to Antioch. I don't wish that on any of my worst enemies, because that's a terrible situation. But we stand as MNPS. We stand with Antioch, and hope everything is well over there. And like I said, my prayers are out for that entire community. That's never a thing you want to go through. And I can't imagine how difficult that is, and how difficult that is for the kids in that school, having witnessed that or having been a part of that. And now you have to kind of face reality going back to school. Like, it's never going to be the same. And it's never a situation to where you can just get over it quick. It's always takes time. It's traumatizing, and you just, and it's fearful, and you just fear that, this is a copycat world. So, very few of these people. So in a lot of these situations, they don't act alone. There's like there's like a plan of, okay, how are we going to affect other schools? Like I've heard there's been some other schools affected. They, obviously and thankfully, they were able to sniff out and thwart those possible attacks. So, but this thing's not over. It's not out of the woods yet. So it's going to be very interesting. And I don't use that word lightly. It's going to be very interesting over the next few weeks of what it's going to be like at Antioch, what's going to be like in the district, how's the district going to react? Is it, what's going to happen across the way? Because, people are going to come, there's going to be people out there that are like, hey, I'm going to do this here, or there's going to be other messages. And I hate to say that, but that's the truth. Usually that's what happens when in these scenarios, and you just got to treat them all seriously and just be safe, protect yourself, use your judgment, lean on your protocols. Hopefully all the schools around the country have protocols in place for this type of thing. And they've practiced them, and everybody knows kind of what's going on. So, like I said, my heart goes out to Antioch, and, it's a terrible situation, man. And I don't wish that on anybody. And that's where I stand. So, but nonetheless, if you go to the game, enjoy the game, be careful, be safe, anchor down, and have a good weekend. Thanks.